Next question comes from Stiltson. If everyone's mind is part of a wider consciousness, and there is no you, me, or I, then what is the part of an individual that supposedly reincarnates through the cycle of rebirth and suffering? I don't think I ever said that everyone's mind is part of a wider consciousness. I hope I didn't. I think that is true of Hinduism, that in Hinduism there is this idea of the Brahman and the Atman. And the Brahman is the big self, the Atman is the little self, and the little self is part of the big self. We are one, and so on. Often get this because it's often understood that Buddhism teaches we are one. I remember reading the dictionary definition of nirvana when I was in high school, and it said the dissolving or the absolving of the whole, of the one, the part into the whole, or something like that, the self into the whole, when you no longer have a sense of being separate from everyone else. Well, Buddhism, or the Buddhism that I follow, says that we are separate. There is a stream of consciousness in every being, just as there is a stream of growth in every plant or every tree. Every human being is an individual entity, an individual stream, just like a river is an individual stream, a tree is an individual growth, and so on. Just as the body is individual. My body is not the same body as anyone else's body. That is clear. There's no, you can't really philosophize your way out of that. My body is different from other people's body. The mind is a stream. So the mind here, or the mind in this being that creates this part of the physical reality, is separate from other streams of consciousness. So that should be clear. The idea of non-self in Buddhism, of there not being a self, is that no part of the stream is the self, is a soul, is me, because it's only a part. It's like no part of the body is the whole. There is no body. Every part of the body can be taken off. There is no point that you could point to and say, that's the eternal soul, or that is an entity in and of itself. It depends on each other. When it's put together, it becomes a self. So the parts of the mind, when they come together, they create this illusion of a self. So this stream of consciousness, because it's moving so quickly, and because it's in the same place, it's arising dependent on each other. It seems like it's one. When you practice meditation, you're able to break that down. You can see that there are thoughts arising, there are judgments arising, there are emotions arising, there are feelings arising, and there are consciousnesses arising. This consciousness and that consciousness, and they arise and they cease. When you're able to break that apart, you lose that sense of self, that in this entity, there is no single thing that is permanent, lasting, stable. It's all arising and ceasing. And the other corollary to that is that there's no one in control. Because there is no one thing that is the eternal self, there's nothing in control. If this phenomenon, say this mind state, acts in a certain way, then all it does is give rise to another mind state and disappears of itself, and another mind state arises. When I want to do something, that's because there's a wanting arise. That's because there's the causes which come together and give rise to a wanting based on previous causes, previous wanting, previous or memories of previous experience and previous pleasure. That wanting leads to the intention to do something about it, the intention to get something. That intention leads me to do something. That doing something then leads to more and more states. So it works in terms of cause and effect, and there is no, we can't um, sit here and arrange all of these things and say, okay, now this cause and now that cause and now this cause, and bring them all together and force things to be the way we want. We're a fluid, dynamic being. We come to see that we're not in control. When pain arises in the body, we can't turn it off. When sound arises, when there's loud noise coming at us, we can't make it stop. When someone is doing something we don't like, we can't force them to be quiet. It goes in terms of cause and effect. If we don't build the causes or create the causes, we can't expect to have the effect. You can't force yourself not to want the things that you want. You can't force yourself not to get angry. All you can do is train yourself to see things in a different way, so that actually, instead of going in this direction, you start to go in this direction, or you slowly do an about face and you're able to go in the opposite direction. You're able to see things simply for what they are rather than becoming attached to them. You're creating the causes for future effects. You're changing the stream. You're turning the stream around. That's what is meant by non-self. As to what reincarnates, well, nothing reincarnates, and that's the point. There is no body to reincarnate into. All that happens is the mind continues to arise and cease, changes, and this wave which we're being propelled through, called life, the physical body, is going to crash, is going to fall apart. That's the nature of the body, and that is verifiable. But the mind is just going to create another body. The mind is working in terms of these waves right now. There are states of being where we don't have these waves of building up and then death, building up and then death. There's simply the slow change, as I've mentioned before, talking about heaven. There is the moving up and down based on our actions, and that's really all we're doing. We become more and more coarse based on our actions in this life, and because of the coarseness, we build it up, and at the moment of death, it explodes into another wave, and we start fresh all over again. If we're able to give up these coarse thoughts, coarse ideas, this clinging that is in our minds, then we're able to fly free. When at the moment of death, there is no crashing down, there's a freedom and a flying up. We can go on to heaven, or even not have to be born again. But in brief, all that there is the arising and ceasing of phenomenon. There is no and there's no evidence that it is other than that. And so, by practicing meditation, we're able to let go of this idea of self, the idea that at death this stops and something else starts, and see that actually it's just a continuation. And you'll see that that's what happens when you die, that when at that moment of death the mind continues on. The mind clings to something, keeps going, starts all over again in whatever realm it finds itself in, based on the state of mind that we've built up to that moment. And this is why meditation is very important, because we aren't a being that is reincarnated. We are just a stream of consciousness, and we don't take who we are now into the next life. It goes from that last moment, whatever we are at that last moment, goes on to the next life. With the qualifier that's dependent on everything that we do in this life. So if you kill a lot of people at the last moment, what's going to happen is all of that's going to come back to you, to haunt you. You're going to think about all of that. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to be worried, scared. You're going to feel the oppression of those mind states that you've created, and it's going to drag you down. Okay? So, no one consciousness. There are separate streams of consciousness, and no reincarnation. There is only rebirth. Rebirth again and again and again, from moment to moment, and at the moment of physical death, that continues. Okay? Thanks for the question.